My name is Betty Armstrong. I went to Oswin Avenue School from 1947. I was born in Eden Grove, and the Hexthorpe School was just at the top of the road on Shadyside. Went to the infant school first for 3 or 4 years, and then moved up into the junior school, which was next door to it. I can remember several of the teachers that were there. I think I was with Mrs. Green first, was with Mr. Watson at the last, and I'm trying to think of the headmaster's name now. Oh, Mr. Burley. Have you heard of Mr. Burley? Right. And then when I left there, it was a Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Burley had retired. The classes were very big. There was 40 in them. And I had the same teacher, Miss Whiteley, right the way through all the 3 years I was there. Miss Dingwall was the headmistress. We had several different teachers for other things. Miss Whiteley took us for English and arithmetic. It wasn't maths in those days. And art, country dancing. Miss Groom took us for sewing. Miss Butt for cookery. Miss Minty took us for history and geography. Well, I never did have, but I know that they used to say that some girls, there was a greenhouse at back because they had an allotment along the back. I don't know whether that's where Rosler got built or not, but they had this allotment for the boys to do gardening. We didn't do it, boys did. And they used to say girls and boys used to meet behind the greenhouse. I don't know whether it was true or not. They used to say some of them did, I don't know. But other than that, we didn't really see them because there was the quadrangle in between us and the doors were at each end, so you never saw them. Yes, you had what do you call it? Race days on it, school. What do you call it? Race sports day. That's right. We had sports days on it. Yeah. Egg and spoon and what have you, racing up and down. And I loved composition. What they call it now, whatever. But composition we used to call it. Yeah. It says on the reports, that. In fact, when we had 11 plus at, and you could either go to Oswin Avenue Tech down here or high school. Well, I could have gone to any, but my mother, we couldn't have afforded the uniforms for the others. And had a cousin that went to high school, that they lived in St James's Street, and she didn't like it, and they had to buy her out. You had to buy out in those days. Yeah, they had to buy her out. And it cost a fortune for all uniforms and things. I mean, at least at Oswin Avenue, you just had to have a gym slit and blazer and 2 blouses, right, And I made my gym slip last for first 2 years, and then the 3rd year I cut it down and made it into a skirt because it didn't fit me any longer, so it got made into a skirt, and then I had the tops like to it. Yeah. Well, we did Taming of the Shrew, but I was never one for going up to front, so I was the prompter and the curtain puller. Because I wouldn't appear in it. No, I wasn't one for, never took front. Did music lessons, but it was mainly singing. Yeah, didn't play anything. I played piano at home for a bit, and had piano lessons, but that faded out eventually. But so we had singing lessons, and Miss Whiteley, she taught us country dancing. I used to like that, but I didn't like PE. We had a Miss Wilkinson that took us for games and PE, and when they played hockey, I always used to get on town fields. I used to get back at sheds, get hided. I couldn't. I'm not on that. We were in the hall to do it, and the games we either played netball in the yard, like, you know, school yard, or PE in the thing, like, you know. We had to wear now then, what was it we had to wear for PE? Shorts and something else on top, these white tops, like. And I remember we had to get ready for it before we went down, and I remember teacher spotted us, and she looked across at me and she says, "Is that a Liberty bodice you've got on?" So I says, "Yes." She says, "Well, get it off." I think I was only one that wore a Liberty bodice. Some of the girls had got bras and I'd got Liberty bodice. My mum were very old-fashioned. Oh dear. My dad worked on the at the plant works. He was right at the bottom of the street was where his works were, where he worked, and it was where they broke the trains up, the boilers up and that, you know, they broke them up. And then later on in life he come to be watchman, finished up as night watchman eventually. My mum didn't go out to work, only I remember we were never very well off because they didn't earn much money. We were in little railway houses, 2 up and 2 down. And my mother, she went out to do somebody's washing on Balby Road, and she got £0.50 for this washing, and if she hadn't finished it at dinner time, she had to come home and see to our dinners and go back and finish it in the afternoon. And this £0.50 was to pay for all our insurances. The next one was a brother. He was born 18 months after me, and he only weighed £1.50 when he was born. He had cerebral palsy because he was brain damaged. Never went to hospital or anything. He was born in the house, little 2 up and 2 house. No bathroom, no nothing, you know. And there wasn't even any hot water. You had to boil the water. And an elderly aunt was looking after my mum, because they did in those days, like, you know. And our own doctor came and delivered him. And when he delivered him, my mother was bleeding heavily, so he just put him on the washstand and left him. And my old aunt came up and took him downstairs, because the doctor didn't think he'd live, obviously. Took him downstairs and cleaned him up, wrapped him in cotton wool and fed him on milk and whiskey. Yeah, and that's what she fed him on. And he didn't walk until he was 4, but he started going to hospital after when he was 4, and they started putting, because his guiders weren't growing in his legs, and they kept having to put bits in his guiders each year until he'd grown fully. And then they I don't know, they did something and turned his hip because his feet were turning in. They did all sorts to him anyway. They got him walking with a walking stick, yeah. That's why he had to go to open air school, and the bus used to come and collect them.
And his name?
Yeah, John Davies, yeah. Then I had another brother, Peter. He was born 1942, and a sister in 1945. But although I'm the eldest, I'm the only one that survived. They all went to, my sister went to Oswin Avenue, and Peter did. But as I say, Jackie went to the open air school. But no, although we hadn't got much money, they were happy years. Yeah. There was a bomb came at the bottom of Eden Grove, and we went down to see the crater where it was. It was right where my husband's, where my father's, because that's what they were after. They were after the railway works, and the bomb dropped there right at the bottom of the street, but it didn't go off. They come and took whatever they did with it. I don't know what they did with it, but the crater was there where it had been. And also at the bottom of the street there was a lane that led down to the Railway Athletics Club, and I don't know whether you ever remember that or not. No. Well, as you went down that lane, the bottom of Eden Grove, there was it was a house with like a little small holding round it, just a large garden really, and he used to grow all sorts and sell them, you know, vegetables. They had a little stall on the market, trouts they called them, and their daughter, the first year she went up to Oswin Avenue, she got drowned in the river at the bottom. Yeah. And the first year I started at Oswin Avenue, one of the girls in the class went on holiday to Primrose Valley. I think it was either Primrose Valley or Filey, and she fell down the cliffs and died. Yeah. So that was two in the 2 years that we lost, you know. That was awful, the one that got drowned. Oh my God. Never forget that. No. When one of the because they did quite a bit of bombing, didn't they, around Doncaster with railway works, but one of them went off at Balby, and my dad's sister lived in. They backed on to Weston. Well, there the kids had been playing out in the garden, and they'd left a tea set on the window ledge. And some of the windows got blown out, but that tea set never got broken. Yeah, little tea set. And it was pot one. Yeah. We had a shelter in our garden. Anderson did the column where you went down into it, like, you know. We had one of them in our back garden. But my grandma, they lived in Nicholson Road, and they had a table, and they had steel all the way around this square thing. They used to get under the table. Theirs, yeah, that was their shelter. There used to be a sound went off to let you know. And my dad was ARP man for Street. We had in our front room we had the a man had made it specially. First aid cabinet. It was a big one like that. It had all drawers in with everything, and that was kept in our front room. And the ladders, when you got halfway down the street, because there were terraced houses, but you got halfway down, there was a little ginnel you went down, and then there was a few more houses after it, and there was 2 hooks, and these ladders were kept in on that hook, and they were for if you needed to, you know, to get there, yeah. Because we still had ration books when I started at the health food stores. Yes, there were still certain things was rationed, yeah. And you used to find that some families, they'd have so many ration books with one shop and so many ration books with another shop, so that they would get any extras if there was any claim on. And I always remember we had at top of Eden Grove there was a corner shop, and I remember once going in to fetch something, because you didn't go and buy a whole week's worth of shopping like you do now. You used to go for everything as you wanted it. And the shop was on the corner, and we were the first house down the street, so our house was next to the shop's garage. And I went in for something one day, and Mr. Davies he called him Davies as well. He come to where I was stood, and he whispered to me, "Go home and tell your mum if you bring the green ration book, you can have some oranges." Yeah. So yeah, but and diabetics, they had different amounts of food. I think they got more cheese and things like that, you know, or vegetarians got different amounts of stuff, yeah. Well, it was very, very different. I used to go with an aunt of mine to visit another aunt up in Whitley Bay. And when the war finished, I was staying at Whitley Bay with this auntie, and they announced it, and I'd already gone to bed. It was 11 o'clock at night, I think, and they came and woke me up, and they said, come on, we're going down. They'd got a bonfire ready, they knew it was going to happen, and it was on Cullercoats Bay, and we went down, and we all went to this big bonfire, and I can remember us walking all arm in arm down Marsden Road, it was Marsden Road at Whitley Bay, singing Bladen Races. Yeah, that's, yeah. I was just glad to get to work, because there was 3 below me. My mum had only got my dad's wage coming in, and when I started work, my wage was £1.05 a week, and my mum had the pound. I gave her the pound, and I had the 5 shillings. But out of that, I had to pay the bus fares and my clothes. Yeah. And what I used to do, we had Thursday afternoons off, the shops closed on a Thursday afternoon, and one of my aunties, she worked as well as her husband, and I used to go and do some cleaning for her on a Thursday afternoon for a bit of extra money. When I left school, my first job was shop assistant at the Doncaster Health Food Stores. It was at the corner of Printing Office Street and Priory Place, next door to Tom Wood's. And I was there from leaving school till I had Susan. You were born in 1961, weren't you? So I was there about 11 years then. I was, well, you were junior first. I was junior for 3 years. You had to, well, one at jobs, first job in the morning was going round emptying mouse traps. And then your last job at night was setting them all again. And that was a health food stores, that. And Elfman used to come round, you know, and inspect and bring stuff to put down for them and that, yeah. When it closed, it closed down, that's right, because I left off Susan and then I went back part-time. Someone else bought the shop and then he closed it down. I went to Hodgson and Hepworth's. Well, I was in the old shop for 1 week because they were building the new shop next door to it, and they were going round with mouse things in the Hodgson and Hepworth's. I mean, that was a posh shop, like Hodgson and Hepworth's. They used to go there bringing mouse traps round, and I says, well, there's one thing, you go into a new place, you'll be all right. He says, are you kidding? They're already in. The mice had already moved into the new shop. I went in, Wendy Craig opened the new Hodgson Hepworth's. When I was there, I was on the bread counter in that one, and then I've had a lot of jobs since then. Yeah, that was my memory of that.
Beef.
Yeah.